significant movement in the January Visa Bulletin in some categories and not much movement in other categories. We're going to talk about the Visa Bulletin today and see what happened. This is the January, which is the quarterly Visa Bulletin. We've been talking all along that this is going to happen.
Yeah, Sam, let's look at the January Visa Bulletin. That's when we're going to see the big movement. Right. And we have seen some big movement.
Yeah. So with that, I am Sam Shihab with the law firm Shihab Burke, and with me,
Brian Burke, talking at his usual speaking voice now. It's Monday, it's 6 o'clock, and we have a really good topic today, which graced us this sometime earlier today when it just unleashed upon us. So I figure what we do is we will talk through what's interesting in the Visa Bulletin, and frankly, it's a whole lot of things. And we'll also maybe talk about some other interesting immigration news running around out there, because there's some other things that came up on our radar as well.
So some people are happy with the development, others are frustrated. And I think probably with the Visa Bulletin, always the case.
I still think there's plenty. I think the people who are frustrated with the Visa Bulletin definitely are still going to outweigh the people who are pleased with this
on any given day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go through what has moved. Looks like good, happy rest of the world. Looks like there's positive movement there.
Yeah. So we'll start with the rest of the world. No great leaps and bounds, but looking at it right here. So EB1, rest of the world. I'm talking about final action dates here, folks. Remains current. Great. Dates, final action dates for EB2, rest of the world. A pretty good jump. Went from July of 2022 to November 2022. So several months there in favor for the rest of the world EB2. EB3. A little bit of a jump there from from December 2021 to August 2022. That's a pretty good jump, about 8 months. I'll take that all the live long day. That's not too long ago. I mean, literally, that's they're working on perms filed in December of 2022, so it's not really too terrible a backlog there.
Yep.
Other workers, only for the rest of the world, a little bit of movement, about a month, but still, I will take that for the rest of the world.
Right.
Now, I think perhaps some of the most exciting stuff, as it tends to be, happens, for India. So maybe we put that up on the screen, a little bit of information there.
Good idea.
Yeah. So there it is, our PowerPoint slides. Oh, and I got to move us around a little bit to get us out of the way. Get out of the way, Sam and Brian.
Yep.
Let me see here. Unlock that. Move us over. Hey, there we are. So there it is. That's what we were looking at in December for India. EB1 filing dates in 2019. Final action dates in January 2017. Pretty darn depressing, considering back in September, I believe it was, of 2020, back in September, the EB1 dates were really quite a bit forward, and we saw that we saw a big old retrogression for India in EB1, and it kind of really bummed everybody out. And I'm going to flip forward to what we see right now, and it's quite exciting. EB1 India, filing dates, January 2021, and final action dates, September of 2020. So what is so cool about that, Sam? We don't know, as of about 20 minutes ago anyway, whether USCIS is taking dates for filing or final action dates for the month of January 2024. It's not up. Let us know in the chats if you have seen it up, come up in the last little while since I last checked. But the bottom line is the final action date of September 1st, 2020 is beyond the dates for filing where we were on December, where they're taking dates for filing, meaning you've gained a ton of time. You've gained literally over a year in terms of dates in terms of ability to file for sure, hands down, EB1 India for the month of January 2024. Thumbs up.
Yes, and pause on EB1 for a second.
Okay.
Because it's important to kind of reflect where we're at.
I need a pause. I'm obviously very excited. Yeah.
Where we're at in time. We obviously have been seeing very generous approvals in the EB1 category from this administration.
Oh yes, this is something that needs to be brought up for sure. Yeah.
And last time I read the Wall Street Journal, it says Biden is in trouble for next year. If we don't have a Democratic administration by the end of 2024, we may be entering a year, next year, in which there may not be an opportunity to file for EB1 beyond that for a long time. Because the newer administration does not have the same vision. They have a different vision. I'm not going to say it's worse or better. I have my opinion, of course, but I'm not here to give my opinion on this. I'm here to tell you that if you think you qualify for EB1, you may be entering the last piece of the open window for a very long time, possibly next year.
I'll state it a different way. This administration has been relatively easy to get immigration approvals through. And if we were to travel back in time, a couple years where everything became harder to get approved. RFEs were up, scrutiny was high. They're attempting to change policies and laws to prevent approval of all sorts of immigration applications, especially employment-based. And I tend to believe what people believe when people say they're going to do things, believe them, and believe what has happened based upon what happened with the prior administration and how things have been since the present folks got the handle on things. And in terms of Sam, our RFEs have been down and our approvals have been back to their prior administration.
And the EB1 probably are at a 10 or a 15-year best right now. In terms of approval rate, and the priority date are reasonable. So if you are with a recent priority date, if you are a frustrated EB2, we're going to be talking about EB2 here from India that has some improvement, but not really anything to write home about. And if you believe that you qualify and you're on the bubble, you need to get off that bubble and move forward. But let's go to the EB2 India. Visa availability, Brian. We see some movement, but not a great movement.
Yeah, so EB2 India, where we last left off, I always like to go by final action dates because they are kind of what matter most to me as an attorney. I like people getting green cards. They had us in January 2012 for EB2 India. And what do we get for January? March 2012, a couple of months, February, March, 2 months. It's better than no movement. I will take it, but it is what it is. Things for EB3 are...
But no improvement in the filing dates.
Yeah, they have stayed the same. If you look, as I flip back and forth, they are identical,
And the government has been recently taking filing dates.
They have recently been taking filing dates, yes.
So, so it may have no impact if they continue taking filing dates.
Yeah. So what we have here is on EB3 India, December, May 1st, 2012, June 1st, 2012. A month. So not exactly
final action dates.
Yeah, for final action dates, not exactly a stellar movement there.
Yes.
But I guess one of the topics of concern that people brought up in this venue here when they're asking us questions, is everybody's going to jump into the EB1 category. The EB1 category is going to be just as backlogged as the EB2 category. Evidently, Department of State doesn't think so by virtue of the fact that they managed to squeeze out, a whole lot of movement on the Visa Bulletin for the EB1 category in January 2024 for India. Worth noting, a little bit of favorable movement on China as well. China EB1 final action dates in December, in February. Now they're going to be in July of 2022.
And what has helped, obviously, is that the EB1 rest of the world is current now.
Yeah, that's that sweet roll across.
And when that is current, that means everything goes to the most backlogged country. In that same category, which is India, and they benefit the most, and it's evident by the very significant movement that we saw in the EB1. So with that tells me that EB1 continues to be the queen category for all countries.
Oh, well, sure.
And that is something that is, an EB2 now has become the blue collar, along with EB3, both struggling to make amends, moving incredibly slow. until further notice.
Yeah. That's the problem there. I mean, I guess the big picture of it, and maybe something we should bring up about talk about visa availability as well, because there's some information about that USCIS put out in collaboration with the Department of State.
Yeah, and that's a good piece of information, Brian. Why don't you share it with us?
Yeah, so for those who aren't aware, out there in the world online, there's USCIS has a very interesting page called their Employment-Based Adjustment of Status FAQs. And in those FAQs, which just appeared out of nowhere, maybe about, I don't know, was it about a year ago? They've been posting all sorts of information. Like that's where we found that little tidbit where they said, if you have a long pending adjustment of status and you weren't working for a while, we might be concerned about that. Things like that. And they updated that page. They made several updates, but the one that's probably most interesting for our purposes here is visa availability, visa rollover for this current fiscal year. And they said, there's about 35,000 less immigrant visas available this year in the employment-based categories versus last year. And they say there's 161,000 available employment-based green cards available this year, which is still more than the bare minimum, because the bare minimum is 140,000 employment-based green cards in a year. So still a little bit of underperformance at the consulates abroad still, such that there are more rollover. And if you go and read that, they basically attributed the availability of the additional 21,000 visas to some of their ability to move the visa bulletin, forward right now. So I will take it. I will take. My heart will go out to those family-based cases who they can't seem to help out. That's 21,000 green cards for relatives outside the United States who haven't been able to come through. But for the employment-based folks, that's metaphorical money in the bank.
Yes, and the consulates continue to struggle. I mean, they've improved, but they continue to struggle in certain posts in moving cases, and we've seen cases in which they're stuck for multiple years.
Yeah,
for spouses.
I've talked to a lot of people about Lagos, Nigeria, for example, where they're just waiting, years to get interviews, that sort of thing.
And delay lawsuit is something that has become a normal thing. So, if you are stuck or a family member is stuck a significant period of time, this is the time to consider those.
Well, let's talk about delay lawsuits, because there's an interesting court decision we were talking about earlier today as well. So, long story short, there was a case out there in the Washington D.C. District Court where people were arguing, issue an injunction to, basically, give us green cards. The government's delaying these things. We've been screwed over by the government by them slow processing our cases. People who got green cards when they shouldn't have, and give us hold on to ours for us and get them. And the long story short of it is the court said, no, we can't do that. And there's a little quote we prepared here from it. What did they say? The court said, the government's procedure, while understandably frustrating, comports with the long-standing policy. Although the State Department initially estimated that it had immigrant visas available to plaintiffs, an estimate is not a guarantee. The State Department can and must revise its estimate when the circumstances change. Therefore, plaintiffs are unlikely to establish that their claims are meritorious. Basically saying that they rolled for that visa bulletin on an estimation. The green cards got gobbled up. You weren't issued a green card. We don't think that you have an argument you can make that that's improper or wrong, that thereby you lose this request. This is in the context of a request for a preliminary injunction where the standard is likelihood of success, as I recall.
Yes.
So
which is negative. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, we keep trying in court. This is not our case in our office, and a very good attorney that we
nice
personally
guy.
know, wonderful, talented, but. This is kind of an out-of-the-box litigation.
Yeah.
And if you don't try these out-of-the-box cases, you're not going to get out-of-the-box results.
Litigation in all forms against the government is good, in my opinion, as long as it's not frivolous. I definitely don't nowhere near frivolous, because even the court acknowledged that the government's procedure is a mess.
But what happened is when the court sees 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of these lawsuits, then the courts start to kind of take a different view. So sometimes winning in court requires persistent effort, which means that it may not be your case. It could be the following case, and so forth and so on. But delay lawsuits, on the other hand, these are pretty straightforward cases.
Oh,
They're
with a current priority
Yeah.
date, if they're wasting your time, I'm still gobbling those things up with a spoon, to use another metaphor. Yeah.
So these are not cases that are complicated or present a unusual circumstance in which a unique look by a judge should be considered. So, yeah, these are good cases. But so in conclusion, Brian, a nudge by the Visa Bulletin in the positive direction.
No doubt.
It is not a movement in the negative direction. And I think there is a significant effort by this State Department to move cautiously to avoid future retrogression, which is causing this very slow movement.
Yeah.
But the reality remains that unless this Congress or the next Congress passes new laws to release, increase the numbers, do something, we really are for the long haul. Unless you qualify for EB1, even then it's taking a little bit longer. Be that as it may, what do you feel, and we'll conclude and start taking questions. What do you feel about this talk about proposed House of Representatives bill to remove the limitation, the 7% limitation per country limitation, etc.?
I imagine a version of me, a younger version of me, when I just recently started this job, and I don't remember any specific question, but I know sometime early on, if somebody asked me the question, Brian, have you heard about Law X that's going to fix visa backlog? Why? And I probably around that time went and asked you. I'd said, Sam, what do I tell somebody? And the answer here has kind of been consistent since the very first time I've been asked the question. It's don't buy into it until it's signed and on the president's desk. My insight of more recent years is, having watched this cycle of somebody introducing a law to fix the visa backlog, is that they are promotional items for Congress people. It is a press release on their website. It is a writing exercise for the people on their team who draft laws on their behalf, or the lobbyists that do it for them. And there are so many laws that get proposed in this country and announced, and they go nowhere because that is the nature of the political process. And have you seen? Yeah, have you seen? I mean, the best analogy I can present is: have you seen a highway that's congested? It's like 4-lane highway. Yeah. And it's a mile section that's really, every day you try to drive through it and it's backed up. This is Sam, the engineer right? Talking. Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. So then what they do is they widen the road. They say, well, we add one more lanes. Yeah. So they add a lane to the one bound, and then the opposite bound, they add another lane. Yeah. What happens? The congestion moves to the next mile. Yeah. The removing or adjusting percentages without adjusting the total number of green cards doesn't fix the problem. Don't fool yourself. I don't know, Sam. I imagine a more culturally diverse group of pissed off people. Yeah, exactly. It changes. It spreads the pain. Yeah. Right. Which is perhaps more fair. But fairness aside, in terms of someone with a priority date that is backlogged is going to move it a year or two, and then it's going to stop again. Yeah. Yeah. And then it's going to stop again, and it's going to be the same problem. Yeah. Across the board. So there is really not a whole lot of benefit, ultimately. Yeah, no, that's really kind of it. I mean, we have entire immigration programs, Sam, that are functionally useless. I mean, what about U.S. citizens sponsoring their brothers and sisters? You have to be 21 years of age to sponsor your brother or sister, and it takes about 15 years to sponsor them if you're lucky. Well, things like that. Not to digress, that's 10,000 visas per year for that category, and there is 2 million people in line. Yeah. Well, I can't help but bring it up. I mean, it's 140. How many people are waiting on adjustment of I-140s for the priority dates? So the biggest talk is to cancel that category. By the way, every once in a while, Congress, but nobody's doing it. But I know
I have filed these brother and sister application, and I know people are waiting for it, and it's crazy, but it takes 2 decades to get through one of these.
I mean, well, that system is kind of a broken, I don't know if it's called a broken promise, but it's a broken system, and I can't help but draw parallels to the employment-based system that we deal with.
But our people want to hear something positive.
Okay.
EB1's
moving forward.
EB1 moving, rest of the world moving. If you believe or you should consider moving from EB2 to EB1, this is the year. 2024 is the year to do this, not 2025, more than likely.
Yeah, I mean, depending upon how things go politically. I mean, EB1As can be pretty subjective,
And if you want to do an EB1C and leaving the country, working for your company abroad, we see a lot of that for 1 year and coming back.
So I expect scrutiny on those to go up as
but
well.
not right now.
Not right now.
And
but,
I mean, if you start now, a year from now, probably it'll be okay.
Well, a year from now is December of 2024, and
not January.
And we'll
premium processing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it took the prior administration to from they came into power in January, about May before things went really bad. But they're basically saying they're planning better this time to get a better handle on things, and that's a concern for the immigration stuff, that they can basically start monkeying around sooner than they did last time, and with more efficiency, because they'll have learned their lessons from their failures last time around.
Yeah. So, well, good times, when good times are around, sometimes we're intoxicated with it and we don't think. So if you qualify for EB1, folks, take advantage of it. And let's start taking questions, Brian.
Yeah.
This is the time when we tell you that there's no attorney-client relationship established because we're answering question. We will do our best to answer your question based on the very limited information that we have, or take your comments and share your comments. But do not make a decision based on information you receive here. Do not sell your house and move because you heard something from us. Please hire an attorney of your choice to understand your case and give you a legal advice based on the totality of your case. Without further delay, Brian, let's take the first question from...
Let's make this bigger so we can actually stand a chance of reading it. There we are.
Suresh.
There we are. Any hope of EB1C India moving current in the next quarter? I'm waiting on filing I-485. So again, that's something we didn't quite touch base upon here, Sam. What they were saying is, what they were saying on the Visa Bulletin, maybe it was October or November, it was, hey, quarterly movements on the Visa Bulletin. Quarterly movements is what we're looking at. We're moving on a quarterly basis. Every quarter, that's when new visas become available. I'm inclined to believe yes. What we have seen of the first quarter of the year is little to no movement between little to no movement. That's that,
As long as the rest of the world first preference remains current, there is hope for positive movement for
at any time, really.
For India, EB1, all categories.
Yeah.
So as long that's, what happened is, right now China is January 2023, so they are less than 1 year out. Once you hit January 2023 for dates for filing,
it slows down.
Then you move with China at the same rate.
Yeah.
So there is definitely room to catch
Until
up.
they both get current, Sam. Those visas pour down to EB2.
So that's good news. So you have priority over China in allocating unused EB1 from rest of the world until it gets to January 1st, 2023, and then both India and China will move the same way. And then for the final action date, you have until July 2022 until it becomes current.
Yeah.
They become equal.
Yeah. As soon as big point is when they in the EB1 category right now, both India and China are backlogged. Extra visas go to the most backlogged category first. When both China and India are equally backlogged, those visas will be split by those to flip them up to both current
Equally.
at once. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
So let's see what we got here. So look for the next Visa Bulletin. It all depends upon when your date is, Suresh, but nobody can really predict how it will go, but we're hopeful for movement then. So, from Blessing Adesurlila, I cannot pronounce that last part, but hi guys, very happy with the development. My priority date is October 2022, EB3, rest of the world skilled. Can you give any predictions on when you think I might be current? So, rest of the world skilled, so that's going to be right there. Honestly, I think I have to wait until the next. My answer has to be wait until the next quarter. If they abide by what they said in the past on the Visa Bulletin and saying quarterly movements for quarterly allocations, I'm inclined to think that you can go from August 22 to October 22. Maybe not on the next one, but perhaps within this fiscal year. The movements have been modest, across, or more modest on the lower categories, and the lower you get, the more modest they are, frankly.
And they have not, USCIS have not told us whether they're going to take filing date or for final action date. That's going to be a very significant impact on your fortune in the next quarters. So that is going to be up in the air, and let's hope for the best. Let's hope to keep taking filing dates. And
I don't know whether this person's green card has been filed, but it looks like if they haven't been able to, they will be able to if USCIS takes dates for filing. So that's great.
Yep.
Let's see what we got. How much movement do you gentlemen see for the next 2 quarters for rest of the world EB3? Because the date is now 6 months of the filing date with 9 more bulletins. 6 months, means off the filing date with 9 more bulletins remaining. So let me see here. January final action dates for EB3, rest of the world, 1st of August 2022, and then it's in February 2023. That checks out. So in theory, we think that, the dates for the final action date should be creeping up towards the dates for filing across the year. And it would seem logical that, that as far as they could predict is within this fiscal year, knowing how many visas they have available. And one would hope that we should be able to let it get to at least February 2023 in this fiscal year for EB3, rest of the world, if the government, whoever in the government predicts this, is right. Right?
Yes. And sadly, I take back to India. That window is so narrow, as I see it. For example, EB3 India is 2 months only.
Yeah.
So that is giving me a hint that the movement for EB3 India and a little bit better for EB2, from May to March. But not much.
Well, for me, this kind of reminds me of what I think of classic Visa Bulletin pre-COVID movement, where when the Visa Bulletin comes out, we're all excited, and the dates have moved a week.
But that window is so narrow.
Yeah.
So movement.
So the window you're talking about is between the final action dates and the dates for filing for India, EB2, EB3. Basically, how much time is there? A couple months between them both, and that if that does predict the movement for the year, it's kind of depressing for this category.
Extremely depressing, and yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. Bing. Oh, a great question from Peter Smith. How long does it take to approve cases when current? I filed AOS in January 2023 and will be current in January 24 under EB2 rest of the world. My I-140 is approved and my case has been in case remains pending, I presume, for whenever your priority date retrogressed. So, isn't this a great question?
Yep.
So, if my first sort of level of analysis, when somebody says, Brian, how long is my case going to take? I go to the USCIS website and I see, gee, how many months does it say it's going to take to process an I-485? And based upon where your case is at, if your case is at a service center, I'm inclined to believe those numbers. But also, you live in a city, and every city has a field office, and they might be judging you by those field office numbers. I tend to believe that you're in a service center numbers processing times until you hear your case has been moved to a field office. So I'd be inclined to look there first, because I vaguely understand that USCIS, does first in, first out, and if they have somebody who becomes current at the same time as you but has a longer pending case, I would think it would be logical they would pick that case up first. Does that sound crazy?
Yeah, no, makes sense.
So, Sam, maybe we should say something more practical then. Somebody's case has become current and hasn't been current for a while. Is there anything that you can do to push it along forward with USCIS?
Absolutely. Inform them, contact them, write to them, call them, annoy them.
Yeah.
Don't back off. Keep the pressure on until you get positive response that this case is moving.
Yeah.
Like an update on the website or something. I wouldn't just sit down and wait for their politeness to say, oh, let me go to that warehouse and grab all those cases.
Yeah, historically what we would do is we would do what at least I called an adjudication letter, as in, hey, my priority date's been current, it hasn't been current for a while, adjudicate my case, please.
And when do you go to court for a delay case in a situation like this?
This is an interesting question. If your case, honestly, if it's been pending long enough for them to have approved the case, I am inclined to go immediately, because
these dates can move back, and then you may not see it again for years.
Yeah, I mean, if you're from the rest of the world, I mean, I'm less inclined to think that
This is as bad.
Yes, the likelihood of retrogression is going to be as bad, because obviously we see India dates swing back and forth, but. There are people out there who have had their priority date current once and didn't get their case approved, and then it's probably even current twice, didn't get their case approved. And I think if you go to a court under that scenario, it's fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me. I'm not allowing them to fool me a third time. Talk to a judge and saying, I've been current 3 times. They've screwed me over 3 times. I cannot trust them to wait anymore. It's not so crazy to me that you could have just become current and want to sue the government. Because as that court case shows, and as we generally believe to be true, you're not going to have a good time if your date is not current in court. But if your date's current in court...
and the moment the date is not current, they get to file a motion to dismiss.
Yeah.
And you will lose.
They'll do that. And they will high-five themselves and say, I got out of a court case because... Well, that's the work they don't have to do. Yeah, and that's the frustrating part. Yeah.
Let's take the next one.
Yes, sir.
Can I file I-45 while doing physician waiver job? If I'm not allowed to, can I file as soon as I finish my waiver job and backdate, and there are any protection for my child and my child ages out? I love to answer that question, but this is the kind of question I need to look at all your documentation.
Yeah, it sounds like a J1 scenario. Somebody here is a doctor on a J1 visa, which, for those who aren't aware, sometimes come with a requirement that you return home to your country for 2 years in lieu of changing to another status or applying for a green card in the United States. Yeah.
But yeah, I love to look at this is the kind of case that, and I give you an answer right now. I cannot say you can or cannot file an I-45 unless I look at the file.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Got one from Arun.
Yes, Arun.
Will EB2 April 6, 2012 be current in the next couple of months?
I'm going to presume that is India, and. So India, EB2, Sam, one thing we didn't talk about here is that EB3 India still remains ahead of EB2 in final action dates. Just a little bit of an
That's
epiphany.
crazy, right?
Yeah, I guess they are still, in those FAQs, USCIS says very much we're aware of, multiple filings. It's only a very small percentage. We have systems to take care of these. First of all, I don't believe them. And second of all,
it's not a small percentage.
Yeah, and I don't think it can be possible that there are more people in EB3 than EB2. Now, a lot of folks from India come to the United States to get a master's degree, and thereby it's going to put them in the.
I do believe that more people in EB2 than EB3.
You do?
Yeah. The reason I believe that is because the backlog is so big, and everybody who crosses 5 years of experience gets into the EB2.
You're right. Historically, we would do a lot of upgrades. People, they did an EB2, an EB3 right after they got to the United States with a bachelor's degree, and 5 years later.
Yeah. So because of the backlog is how many years now? 10, 12, 15 years?
11 years.
11 years?
Yeah, June,
okay.
It's in 2012.
So you have 6 years. Somebody came in, filed for a case, and then 5 years later, filed for another one. So you got that, and then you got the master's degree.
A lot of move up, and there is a very large contingency of folks who come from India.
Everybody that started with EB3 moves up to EB3.
Well, everybody has always wanted EB2. It's very first question that we usually get when we begin a green card process. What category is it going to be?
How many EB2 you filed versus EB3?
Yeah.
Brian? 8 to 1.
Oh, it's higher than that, especially in the last couple of years. I'd say it's probably been up.
9 to 1, 10 to 1.
Yeah, keep on going up, and maybe
very few
20 to 1.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that you answered your own question.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right.
Yeah.
So April 6, 2012, EB2 final action dates. That seems if choose a couple. 3 is a few. I would look towards the next quarter of visa bulletins, and I don't think it sounds crazy that April 6, 2012 could get there, considering we're in March. Yeah. From next one here, from Fort Myers. Thanks, Brian and Sam. Thanks, Sam. Questions about EB1, EB3, OW, rest of the world, other workers, rest of the world. Why are they moving the dates extremely slow? 1 month advancements in a whole quarter. 2, if I want to leave a current employer, does my supplement J, let's see if the follow up here, if I can find it here. I think it's right here. Does my supplement J have to be the exact same SOC code, or other unskilled types of jobs also work? Example, mine is a food and beverage, but can I do some other unskilled jobs like repair shop, etc.?
So, same or similar job classification.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
And we need to look at that a little bit to make sure that it is same or similar.
Yeah.
So be careful.
So I mean, this person's here talking about a change, from food service to a repair shop. Doesn't really seem practical for a same or similar occupation, right?
It all depends on what he's doing in both jobs.
I guess.
I need to look a little bit more, right?
I guess so. I'm presuming a food and beverage occupation, but if you're working in repairing X in the food and beverage industry versus repairing X in for some other type of business, I could imagine that. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There could be common thread in terms of some stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know until I see it. But the other question, why are they moving so slow in other workers rest of the world? Well, the reason is very simple. There's only 10,000 green cards set aside for those guys. So it is not. It's 10,000 out of the 140,000.
Yeah, and I mean
that's a small number.
The other workers category, it's basically it's everybody else. If any sort of requirement for which you're seeking labor certification can be put in there, and we talk to people about that option all the time. I was talking to somebody about electricians and welders that they were interested in doing that, and that's fair game. It's really any occupation from any country on the planet could, as long as somebody's sponsoring them, could be in that category.
The pool of available people is significantly large, and the pool of available visas, green card, is significantly small.
Yeah.
And therefore the backlog is bigger.
Yeah.
And the movement is slower.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think I skipped over one here. There was a question between the ones for, I think there is Rami. Let me see here. Waiver job. Okay. Always, we need to figure out, that's a room. We did that one for Ryan. Right here. Here we are.
Good catch, Brian. Ramilov. Hi, Sam. Brian. When do you think August 2nd, 2012, India becomes current in the final action date?
I like that you're talking about final action dates, because I love talking about final action dates. So August 2nd, 2012, India, and
well, EB3 is June 2012.
Yeah,
and they're the same date, and so.
Well, what do they say about dates for filing then for India? I mean, oh geez, EB3, the maximum, the dates for filing right now are at August 1st, and that's the date of August 2nd. So I would fully admit that we are being educated by whoever the guru at this Department of State is right now that's running this thing. And we are learning things. What we have learned, it is quarterly movements are where it's at, right? What I still haven't figured out, and they haven't really quite told us exactly what it means, is what do dates for filing versus final action dates mean? One theory, which I think is a very reasonable one, is that across the fiscal year, what they reasonably believe right now is that the final action dates will creep up to the dates for filing.
Meaning that in their vision,
Yeah.
at least in their vision right now, they don't see August 2nd, 2012
In the foreseeable
in this
future.
fiscal year.
Yeah, whatever dates for exactly whatever dates for filing are. And the prior guy, Charles Oppenheim, I believe is Charles Oppenheim, was it?
Sure.
He said, the dates for filing are a lookout of 10 to 12 months, but that hasn't really held true because they've been. I mean, how can it be an outlook of 10 to 12 months if the EB1 just shot off, went crazy the way it did?
But there's a reason for that, is because the rest of the world became current.
Yeah.
And therefore,
Unforeseen things that can change.
they were able to move
Yeah.
a lot. So maybe they were not expecting that the rest of the world, EB1, will be current.
Perhaps. Yeah. So from Sriva, priority date January 2014. When do you think it might be current? Have an application in both EB3 and EB2. Thanks. I like EB3 and EB2 applications. The Rolls Royce, the most luxurious way to get a green card. You file them both, and then you wait for one to be approved, and you don't have to fret about tubs and things like that.
All this craziness.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, that's a significant period of time
Yeah.
from what we have.
What do you? I'm going to make a bold statement, Sam. Would you say it's probably not reasonable to believe that those dates would come up during this fiscal year?
It's reasonable for them not to come out this year.
Yes. That's what I mean. Sorry. Yeah.
Is it likely for them to come out next year?
I want to learn more about the movements of this, but I can't say that it is.
Yeah.
Considering what they said on those employment-based adjustment of AOS FAQs, look them up, folks. They said in their inventory they have cases enough to gobble up through several years of visa allocations, and that's cases they have in their hands right now.
Yes.
But Sriva is amongst. Yeah. Again, the big holdout I have right now for speedier than historical visa bulletin movement is the fact that they did clear out some of the people who got visas earlier than perhaps they should have.
Yeah.
But when the massive extra visa availability occurred due to COVID.
Yeah.
Let me see here. That's that one. Keep it moving here. From Sudakar. If the pain is felt by all the countries, then change will happen quick rather than Indians fighting to change that. That's something I have thought about before.
Well, I accept the premise. I don't agree with the conclusion. This Congress is inept. It requires an act of Congress for things to move forward.
Yeah. So you don't buy the premise of a change anytime.
Not
Not in this.
I just don't see it. I mean, everybody's saying there's about 60% chance of major legislation in the next 5 years, and there's like 20% chance of any legislation in the next 2 to 3 years.
For me, these things become issues that are more likely to be resolved when they are out there in the ideas marketplace. And I didn't get a chance to read it yet, but my mother called me on Sunday morning and said, Brian, I'm going to say this for you. There's an article on the front page of the Dispatch about the local newspaper here in Columbus about the plight of Indians and the green card backlog, which is for me, anytime it's out there and not this, we're going to talk about this all the time because it's what we do for a living, but if it's out there in the world, being talked about and read about by people who aren't us, frankly, in this venue here, that's always good to move that dialogue forward. So, I don't know. So, I'm all for any sort of more conversation about it. And if again, I thought the even though it's bad for the people in the rest of the world categories, the backlog in the rest of the world categories is probably better for the dialogue because there's essentially going to be more voices, talking about it.
Right. Well, I'm not against it, except that the same Congress that's going to remove that is able of increasing the numbers. So if not capable of doing one, how can they do the other?
Yeah.
That's where I see.
Well, yeah, I mean, they can barely agree to keep the government open, let alone.
I mean, it's the worst.
I expect one of our January topics is going to be: are we going to get a government shutdown? Because well, they only kicked the ball down the road from whenever it was in December or whatever the date was previously to January at some point.
So we'll see.
It's still bubbling in the news stream.
Yep. All right, Anna Love, do you think there will be a forward movement in EB3, rest of the world, for the upcoming bulletin? So obviously, you sitting at the rest of the world highway or roadway, it moves slightly better than most others.
Yeah, as I'm staring at the charts here, we got from December 21 EB3 rest of the world to August 2022.
Yeah.
A pretty good jump, but I don't think I can say a big forward movement in the next month. I mean, well, I'll hypotheticalize. I'll talk about it. You know.
But if you look, Brian, at the EB3 rest of the world
dates for filing, you could tell me?
The window, what we call the window, the dates for filing is February 2023.
Yep.
And the final action date is August 2022. Okay.
Yeah, they got about 6 months of.
That's a significant movement. That's a significant time. So they think that
it is foreseeable that we could get to February 2023.
And that's a nice
in the upcoming bulletin, I don't think so, because
yes, that's the end of the year. So we got a long time to go.
I think can we maybe agree at this point? We've seen it for a while now that quarterly you get interesting visa bulletins, and between them don't expect much. Expect perhaps corrections based upon oh, we didn't get as many cases as we thought, or we got more than we thought. And we haven't seen a retrogression any small minor retrogressions like that.
No, I think you're right. I think the quarterly movement is the real movement, and I think the in between are corrective movement.
Yeah.
We overlooked this, or we should have done that kind of a movement, but nothing that is considered.
Yeah. If somebody held a gun to my head, forced me to bed, I'd say, you're looking at if anything at all, weeks, not relatively large leap like we saw.
I think I want to propose to everybody. How do you guys feel about the government publishing them 4 times a year and forget about it?
That would be
painful for you.
Painful for
sad.
me.
You'll be like not enough excitement. Because most of these dates are baloney dates.
I do recall a conversation between you and me and Attorney Joe where I saw the January Visa Bulletin was out, and there was January Visa Bulletin, everybody. There was clapping and a woohoo because, well, honestly, we were excited to see it, and it was an exciting Visa Bulletin. So
it's okay. We'll take it every month, but yeah, it has reduced itself to quarterly in terms of significance.
When am I going to see big release of visas and thereby big movement or any movement for that matter? AK. I have filed adjustment of status in EB3 skilled category from rest of the world. I'm currently on pending asylum, and some of attorneys to whom I talked were saying that your petition will be denied. I'm not sure if there's a second part to this one here. Let me see if there is. Here we are.
If denied, can I go to consular processing?
Ooh.
So we have had success in certain asylum cases adjusting. Not all adjustment of asylum cases can adjust, but some can and have successfully.
I remember that you went to where did you go? Did you go to Seattle for that, or where was it?
Somewhere, some country. You have not.
So
they get approved.
In recent, it's just it seems to be kind of an unsettled area.
Not really. I mean, it's not unsettled. It's settled enough to kind of to go as far as saying. I mean, if your attorney told you it will not be approved, then I trust your lawyer. But and I have told people that your case will not be approved recently, and I've told other people that your case, I believe, has a good chance of approval, and they were approved. Moral of the story is, it's possible, but I'm not going to say what the attorney said is impossible.
Yeah.
And if you were denied, can you do consular processing? Becomes also a question that need to be analyzed carefully because of the unlawful presence question, and whether or not you've accrued any unlawful presence, etc.
That's a serious question there. Yeah, I mean, just because somebody has filed for asylum doesn't mean their adjustment of status has. It's really kind of a very fact-specific sort of analysis, really.
Yeah.
And
so we'll have to look at the case. This is one of those case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me see.
But AK, thank you for bringing this up
There's a
for
case
everybody.
question, and then there's one in between. Here we are. Okay, from Sriku1. My spouse company is applying for PERM. She only has 2 years of experience with bachelor's degree and works for a school district. What are the chances for getting an audit? Will PERM be approved?
Okay, so an audit is a function of certain triggers and certain drafting of the labor certification. Sure. So it's hard to tell. I am impressed that you're able to get to as far as a labor certification with a board, with a school board. The red tape that you go through with the government with these jobs is atrocious. So that's impressive. Yeah. But I cannot comment on the audit, and then whether the PERM will be approved is an interesting question because it's an intertwined with, I don't know what is the position you're applying for, with possible union jobs.
Yeah.
And that will make the labor certification even more exciting and more tricky to maneuver. But I cannot comment beyond that.
I mean, there's just so many points of data that go into a PERM case. Were there U.S. workers? Did anybody apply? What is the quality of them? Where are you located at in the United States? Certain jobs might be, high demand, high availability of U.S. workers for that job versus, practically no availability there. It's really kind of all over the place. Fundamentally, no attorney can tell you whether a PERM is going to be approved or audited.
Even if you drafted it yourself.
Yeah.
Let alone trying to comment on a PERM drafted by somebody else for a school district for crying out loud.
I mean, you mentioned, audits are sometimes, created by triggers, and they are, but also sometimes audits are random.
That too. Yeah.
It's I would say maybe big picture audits seem to be down in the last couple of years, but you just don't know.
Right. Good luck for you on your spouse's PERM case, by the way.
Yeah. So EBI Williams Monukurai. Great news for the F2A. We haven't even talked about the family-based stuff, which we don't usually talk about here, but I can't resist looking. We just zeroed in on the EB1A India. F2A, so I'm looking at December, and basically everybody was stuck in February of 2019. Where are we at for final action dates?
2023 for dates for filing is moved, looks like. It must have.
Yeah, it moved a little bit, but only, I guess. So December 2023, F2A, that's spouses and children of permanent residents. So that's family-based immigration. It moved from, February 2019, pretty much across the board for everybody else, China, India, Mexico, Philippines, all the way to November 2019. So pretty good.
I mean, it's almost current.
F2A? That's 3 years, man.
No,
it's 4 years.
dates for filing.
Oh, dates for filing. Oh, okay. That is pretty good. Meaning, that is very good. I can think of somebody for whom it's a shame. I can think of somebody who I recently filed in a permanent resident. I filed for F2A category, and the problem is her spouse is outside of the United States, meaning he cannot. He filed recently.
Remember the F2A category, which is so people understand what is the F2A category. It's spouses of a permanent resident, and I just want to double check, and children of permanent residents can file for an adjustment of status. And remember, if you are in the U.S. And you want to apply for an adjustment for an F2A for a child or a spouse, that child or spouse must be in status.
Yeah.
In valid status. Unlike spouses of a U.S. citizen that they don't have to be in status. Yeah. So there is that wrinkle, but that movement is definitely positive.
So Sam, I would have to go back and question our premise. Our premise was that, the Visa Bulletin dates for filing represents where things are going, right? F2A, 1st September 2023, and the final action dates are in November of 2019. I hope for the benefit of those F2A people, that means the consulate's going to get their butts in gear and give away some of those visas, but.
They can't give them away until the case is current. So they want you to file these cases and get the visa. But it looks like the visa office is having some bandwidth, ability to take on cases. So they're opening up the bandwidth. Remember, decisions made on the family level are driven by the consulate. Decision made on the employment-based level is driven by USCIS because the split is 80-20 both ways. 80% of the family cases done at the consulate. 80% of the employment-based cases are done at the USCIS in the United States. Yeah. So they look at the visa office, their capabilities to handle cases, and then they adjust the dates for filing. And normally, all the time, Brian, they do take dates for filing to begin the consulate. It is not unlike USCIS that some months they say, well, we're taking final action. This month we're taking filing. USCIS, the Department of State takes filing dates all the time, every day. So that's a good movement if you have somebody, if you're a permanent resident and your spouse is abroad and you have an I-130 that was filed prior to September 1st, 2023, expect the visa office to initiate the consular processing case.
Well, here's my beef, though. It's going to take them. They just take their sweet time in approving, I-130s that are for spouses of permanent residents. Because I think the reason why is to say, I don't care. Your visa's not going to be available anytime soon.
Again, this is the time for a delay lawsuit, because with the windows coming and going, and with USCIS being so backlogged, until and unless you become aggressive, and remember, Congress told USCIS, we believe that 6 months is a reasonable time for you to process an immigrant petition. Yeah. That's what Congress have told USCIS decades ago. And that's the standard by which delay lawsuits are built.
They will, but they will stratify their processing of I-130s, and we're on a total tangent here, but literally taking 6 or 7 years to process, those for spouses, brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens, for example, because why? Who cares? Because they're never going to become current.
Well, that's understandable because, quite frankly, some of them pass away.
Yeah.
Some of them do pass away before.
I'm sorry.
Before the green card is available.
Yeah, but it's baloney. It's baloney.
Because they took the money.
They took the money.
But they don't want to do anything. They just put it in the file and they just pocket the money and they spend it.
Baloney to the maximum.
Let's take the next one.
Yeah. Dan Nardan, your show and explanations are amazing. Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we like to. Well, we enjoy talking about these things. Clearly, I hope it comes through. From Emil, is there a possibility that EB3 Philippines will retrogress in the next quarter, or will it move forward? So,
in general, this administration is trying to avoid retrogression. Yeah. And I have not seen big problems in the Philippines EB3 category, quite frankly, at all.
In the employment-based realm, it's Philippines and Mexico tend to roll with the rest of the world categories, because as far as I interpret this, they get a special spot on this chart because they have a special spot on the family chart, because
Yes.
there's so much family immigration there due to historic relations to the Philippines and Mexico being just so darn close. But again, Mexico, Philippines tend to line up with the rest of the world, meaning I would expect, fingers crossed, that they
Move forward with the rest of the world,
yeah.
yes. And I don't expect retrogression for the Philippines.
Yeah. I mean, there's it's a little bit back for other workers, but beyond that, it's the same for EB2 and EB3. So,
Yeah.
For January 2024, anyway. Let's see here. From Adiola. My priority date is 17th of February 2023. Can you predict when I will be current? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I know he's my partner, and he's a smart man.
Yeah.
But he cannot predict.
We gave up predictions.
We cannot predict. He does not have a crystal ball, but he will try to predict.
Well, so I have a couple problems with this prediction, and I don't mean to waggle my finger at Adiola too much. He gave us some follow-up information. I'm on EB2 preference, and the next one, I fall into the rest of the world category. Well, I no longer have to. I unwaggle my finger, and Sam's looking for the applause button, the clapping button. All the information we need to answer that question. I'll have to go back and listen to that to see how it sounds, Sam, because I have no clue. So EB2 preference category, rest of the world, with a priority date of, let me see, 17th of February 2023, was it, Sam? Yep, behind our camera there.
February 2023,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So, oh wow, you're so close. You're literally 2 days off of current for the dates for filing.
For dates for filing. Final action is November 2022. So it is the interpretation, at least, is that this date will become current early next year.
That would be a guess.
The interpretation.
Yeah.
But that's not a prediction.
Yeah.
When I say next year means, so we may be seeing an October Visa Bulletin.
I don't like if there's a universe where that date for filing is current in the next month, it wouldn't blow my mind because I'm still trying to figure out how exactly they're moving this. You're only 2 days of current of dates for filing.
And the rest of the world is obviously it's the fastest moving track for everybody. So you have an opportunity to move forward.
Just a general reminder for everybody, people from India and China in those backlogs should be encouraged to see the rest of the world move forward because when those guys become current, again, cross fingers, spread across to the other.
Well, here that's one theory. The other theory is if we all feel the pain at the same time, maybe Congress will do something.
Yeah.
But yes, it's frustrating. But this Congress is pathetic. I've stopped reading politics. I read no politics anymore, and I live happier. I only read the immigration stuff because I want to have happy days, not frustrating days. With that, guys, we end today's presentation. I hope it was helpful. Share some of the information that we have, and oftentimes we learn from you as well. Until next week, you have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see you guys 6 o'clock on Monday.
Yes, Monday.
Monday,
Yes.
not Tuesday.
Bye-bye.